Thank you all for coming, this amazing audience. The last talk today with Alain Servais. Alain is a Belgian collector. He's in financing. Money is important, right, Martin? Money. So I asked Alain if he could talk a little bit about what he collects, and also talk a little bit about the intricacies of financing and the art market. Alain writes a lot. He sends also a mailing list with articles, very interesting articles. Most of them are related of financing and art market. I don't read them all, but the ones I'm interested in, it's really, so he's really very well informed, and I think we are happy to have him today. You can ask, is it okay if people interrupt you with questions? So if you have any question because you don't agree with what he's trying to argue, please go ahead. I'm happy to, I will hand you the microphone. Alain, as he told, maybe you attended the other panel, he has an exhibition space, also a residence space. And how many artworks you have, more or less?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000. So quite a lot. And you collect also a lot of video installations. So it's not just paintings, like me. I collect very small paintings. Oh, it's fun. Okay, so Alain, ga je gang, as we say in Dutch. Thank you.
So thank you for coming. They really challenged me this time because giving me the slot at 6 p.m. on a Saturday, in the middle of the fair, if you're staying, I really admire you and you get a special extra point. So let's make it interactive. I'm here to answer your questions because I know what I've got to say, so I don't need to repeat it. So please don't hesitate to interrupt. On panels, because I do a few panels like this, the problem very often is that the speaker does not answer the question that is coming for. So we're supposed to talk about something and we speak about something else. So in this case, why do I collect contemporary art? I will answer in one single sentence that will only make sense at the end of the presentation, which is I'm collecting contemporary art because my neurosis met art. Because nothing in my background, my family is not collecting, I have zero art history in my curriculum, I'm a pure finance guy, MBA, mathematics, physics, money, so nothing was destining me to meet art. And eventually, one day I crossed the door of a museum, the MoMA in New York, and suddenly I had this kind of orgasm when you have that in music. Sometimes when you're listening to music or a movie or something, it's similar to an orgasm, and you're wondering, what the hell is this? And it was art. So my neurosis, and then of course I took many, many years, like you go to the shrink. I didn't go to the shrink, but almost, and I wonder, why am I interested in art? And it's something that really took me a lot of time. So the most important thing in this question is art. What is art? So I could start, but the problem is I heard that Lithuanians were a little bit shy. So if I'm asking you, what's your definition of art? Probably I will have to wait too long. So I will, if anybody has a definition of art, anybody? Okay, it's 6 o'clock, that's okay. So it's the key thing, because unfortunately for art, there's only one word for multiple things. So it's very difficult to define. The main thing is to define what we are talking about, because it's very easy to argue on something, but if you don't agree about what it is, you're in trouble. So this is considered art. Those two works are considered art. even the one on the left is selling for 100,000 euro, okay? When, in my opinion, it's simply not art. It's not art because it's the usual product. It's, you know, it's been seen 100,000 times. We will get to what it is. The one on the right side is the most popular artist in the US. So almost every house in the US in the middle of nowhere has got that guy, which is Thomas Kincaid. So he sold prints, but he sold more than 50 million prints. So many people consider that this is art. Another thing is the Infinity Room, or the Kusama Infinity Room as well. You know, people are queuing around the corner, they want to do the Instagram things, and they say, oh, I went to see art. For me, this is no art, this is entertainment. The same with the Rainbow Room. This is also considered art, because, of course, Warhol is a very important artist, but for many people say, oh, this is worth $20 million. So this is art because it is worth $20 million, okay? But it's not enough for me that it is only worth so much money that this is art, because in some way, we don't know what it is about anymore. The same for the Lucio Montana, depending whether it's a red one or a green one or a white one, whether there's 1 slash, 2 slash, 3 slashes, then it's worth a multiple of each other, which is, where is the art? Okay. Now we're getting to what I'm considering art. And I will not use my own quotes, I will use the quotes of other collectors. And that's really the key start. Sometimes I could go around the fair with some of you, and I could tell you, is it worth spending your time in art? Or just forget, you know, go back home, watch football, which is perfectly fine, or a movie on Netflix, White Lotus or something like this. Because what's interesting is the people that are interested in contemporary art like I am, they just, when they see something that they don't understand, they are irritated. You know, said, what is this? You know, it disturbs me, this is shocking me, this is against my religion, about my philosophy or whatever. So what is interesting is when you decide, but why is it that I don't like it? And that's the most important part, is that you're starting to get deeper and deeper into why you don't like it. And very often, the more you're going to go in that element, the more you're going to love the piece. Because suddenly, this work of art has opened a window inside yourself. And this is what we're getting to the point of art is. The same collectors made this quote. Oh. So, they made a similar quote. Then you say, okay, what is art then for me? And then I go back to my own philosophy. Who is familiar with the Allegory of the Cave by Plato? Raise your hands. Allegory of the Cave by Plato? No one? Just 1, 2, 3? Who's comfortable with the Matrix? Matrix? So, you remember the blue pill and the red pill? What happens when you take the red pill? When you take the red pill, it tells you you will never see the world again in the same way. Okay? If you take the blue pill, you go back to sleep. What I find fascinating is that 2,600 years ago, there was no Instagram, no television, no telephone, no social media, no nothing. So 2,600 years ago, there's a guy in Greece who saw the world in this way. He thought that every one of us, you, me, every one of us, we are born at the bottom of a cave. We're all seated by the wall, and we are chained. So we are baby like this, we are growing, but the only thing we see is the thing that are in front of us. And then what is in front of us are shadows. You see, there are people behind us that are showing shadows. So the only thing we see in front of us are shadows. Because we never saw anything else than shadows, we believe it is reality. What the philosophy of this guy called Plato said is, what you should try to do during your life is to get out of your chain. You turn around, you look at the light for the first time, it will hurt. So you will be tempted to go back sitting by the wall with all your friends because you're alone and you're hurting. But if you manage, you should try during your entire life to reach that reality of things. What is the reality of things? That's the basis of philosophy, 2,600 years ago. Matrix is the same story. They are asked to Neo, you want to live like you were before? You're just in the Matrix, you think that you have a life, you go to work in the morning, you do this, you get married, you go to that school, you make money, and so on and so on. Or you decide to take control of your life. And this is what art is for me. It needs to take me out of my comfort zone and to try to open myself up to another reality. So it's very simple. Any art that is not disturbing me in one way or another is simply no art. Because it's only another shadow. So you see, for example, this pink square thing. Some people say, oh, it's pink, oh, it's beautiful, oh, it would fit my sofa, oh, yeah, it's very nice, okay? But the problem is, it's doing nothing to me, and it's not changing anything about my perception about the world. So I just say, this is not what it is. But the problem is this world versus 2,600 years ago is that we are even more pushed into endorphin. So we want instant pleasure. We don't want to be disturbed. And the entire system is made so that we stick at the same place that we are. We're staying at the bottom of the cave. So it's funny that 2,600 years ago, a guy could say that this is the fate of the human. So sometimes people ask me, please give an advice to young collectors. I don't know if there are some young collectors here or not. The thing is, sometimes people say, oh, what should you give advice? Oh, you should buy what you love. And I will shock you, but I will tell you, I'd rather buy what I don't love. I will buy the things that are bringing me to another place, that will disturb me. So very rarely I'm attracted to it like instinctively or because I find it beautiful. So my first remark to collectors is, are you the one that is able to break those rules? I give an example. I'm in Lithuania for 48 hours now. I'm struck by the fact that 85% of the people are dressed in black, certainly in the art world. So my question to you, to know whether you would be okay to collect contemporary art, is if I offer you a suit, a pink suit, will you wear it for the opening of ArtVilnius? If you're telling me, no way, no, I would be ridiculous, I would not do it. Then I say, you know what? Stay where you are. You're at the bottom of the cave. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. You're going to be happy. You're just going to live in illusions. But you will never go further. If you are the one that is offered that possibility and you say, of course I would do it, okay? Then you say, you're opening a door that is very interesting. So it's really a question of also being alone. You know, we are in a society where we never want to be alone. Not physically, but also socially. You know, we think we have friends because we have many friends online and the whole thing. But can we accept to be really alone and by choice? So it's all those elements of saying, do I dare to go to places like me, for example? You know, I'm coming from Brussels, pretty big collectors from there. People tell me, what are you going to do to Vilnius? Okay? So the thing is, it's simple. I say, I want to know what Vilnius is. There's even a rule in my life that I'm really, every single year, I'm going to a city where I've never been before. It's a rule. So this year it's already 2, because I've been to Bukhara last week, and now in Vilnius. So it's already 2 cities where I've never been. I'm also never buying secondary houses. So I know I don't have a house in Côte d'Azur, I don't have a house in the mountains, I don't have a house in Ibiza, because I find it very boring to go to the same place all the time. So that's why I'm destined to be a contemporary art collector, because I don't want to fit in the mold that is given to me. So that's my nature, and that's why I'm collecting contemporary art. So what kind of work are you acquiring? So this is a work of the collection. It's from a Chinese artist called Li Shuang. And what he did is, he's going around the city of Vilnius, for example, and he's trying to discuss with people. And he said, "Mister, can I buy everything you have on you? Everything. Your underwear, your credit card, your phone, absolutely everything. I pay you 20,000 euro for this." So of course, it's a big challenge to convince someone. It takes hours and hours and hours. But eventually he managed to do that. So here he bought the entire wear or gear of someone. And you see there is the watch, there is the phone, there is even the different cards and so on. So what we have here is a portrait. It's a portrait of a migrant worker in Shenzhen, in China. So either you can take a picture, which is the classical way, either you do this. And it's not a picture, it's the actual object on the floor. So when I remember there was a French journalist came home, he wanted to make a shooting at home, and he asked me, "I want you to choose one work of the collection." And I said, "I will choose this one." He said, No. I want a painting like this. No. I said, "It's this one." He was there with a team of 5 people. And he said, No, I want something like this. No. I said, "It's simple. It's my place. It's this one or you leave." Okay? So the guy was very shocked, and eventually he did it, and it gave a very good result. But that's the kind of things I'm buying. Another one is this work by Kader Atia. So what he does is he wants to speak about our breaks. You know, every one of us has got some breaks. You know, we lost our dog, we lost our parents, we broke up with our boyfriend, we realized we are gay and we're interested in the other gender. I mean, something happens, or we cannot stand school, we are bullied at school. All of us have got something to break. So he wants to work about this and represent this. And he thinks about Morocco, where there is workshops all over the place that are fixing the different elements of a motorcycle or a car or whatever. So it's a place where you do refurbishing. So you can actually go there and they will fix it. So you see, everywhere there is some plastic things. So it's another way of speaking about our breakups, our pains, our difficulties. So that's why I bought this work. This one, Damien Hirst. So you say, you know, it's in my kitchen, and people are still coming and they look at me and say, "That's a work of art?" Yeah, I say, "Yeah, it's a work of art." "Really?" I mean, it looks like a pharmacy. So I say, "No." And of course, Damien Hirst is a very complex character. I would never buy a Damien Hirst of today, but I find those work that were done very early very interesting. And what's the story behind? He said, you know, when I was a kid, it was very funny because every time we were hurting ourselves in the garden or on bicycle or whatever, our mother was always coming with the same medication. And only the moment we saw that medication, we were already feeling better. And his dream was to create works of art that would make people feel better just by looking at it. So in fact, what's interesting is that the boxes are empty. So it's on purpose, it's only about the impact that things can be. It's always referring about how can I make work of art that they like to keep me on my thing. So, anything? Oh, good. So that's already interesting. So you say, okay, so everybody should be interested by art, because I got also sometimes very wealthy friends in Mexico, for example, and they say, you know, I'm really amazed why people don't love art, okay? And I say, you know, you're a billionaire, you've got 5 houses and everything, okay? So you should not forget that, you know, art is only when you have food on the table, you've got your kids at school, you've got a community around you, you're not alone, you know, living in suburbs that nobody cares about you. And only then you can go to self-achievements. So it's pretty normal that at one point, it's not the elite, but that is one of the problems, which is very interesting because I'm pretty sure that here in the audience, there are people that are absolutely in love with art, but they don't have millions. It doesn't matter, it's just about the decision of saying, but really art is very important and the way I'm living is good enough to fulfill those needs. So now we had to adapt a little bit the needs because the needs change a little bit because without Wi-Fi and without battery, we are nothing. So when we solve that, it's another problem. So I go back to what art is for me. And I go back to the matrix. And that's very important because I'm sure you are all aware of the algorithm that is deciding on Netflix what you are watching, Spotify, what you are doing, Instagram, what are the news that you are getting about Gaza or not Gaza, which side are you going to be, on Trump or not Trump, and everything. So you know deep inside you that you are zombies. So art is that moment when you can wake up. A work of art is supposed to wake you up as well. And Ansuri Khobrist, who is a very smart guy, he had this sentence which for me was very important, is that art is the best form of resistance against annihilation by standardization. So I go back to my pink costume and your black dress because I saw a young lady that said, no, I would never wear pink, I want to wear black. But if you are one of those, decide. Maybe you are a zombie. And the problem is that you're going to wake up at 90 years old on your deathbed and you're going to say, shit, I didn't live. So your choice is now. So I'm going to pass this. So do you want to get into money? So we have no choice than speaking about money. Because in some way, art, to be distributed, we invented scarcity. So it was something that was rare, okay? So the artist that is successful is the one that is not producing 1,000 works a year. If you say about an artist, oh, he's only producing 20, it takes a lot of time. So it's more valuable than the one producing 1,000. So it's an organized scarcity. And I remember something very striking is that I had major English collectors, and they said to me, you know, yesterday we had the best and the worst experience that we ever had. We were in the storage of Hauser & Wirth in Switzerland. So Hauser & Wirth is occupying a storage which is a former anti-nuclear things. It's thousands and thousands of square meters. And you know, it's concrete and everything, and they were brought in there. And to their amazement, they saw hundreds of sculptures by Paul McCartney. You know, the Paul McCartney, you know, the Pirates, you know, it's worth probably 300,000 euro. So the problem is there was not one, there were hundreds of them. So they were scared because they said, oh shit, I thought it was rare, but it's not rare, there are hundreds of them. So the market is organizing to pretend that it's expensive and that because it's rare. So what is the basis of defining what the commercial value of art is? This is what Leo Castelli, major dealer at the time, wrote. And he said, you know, why is a Gauguin or Cézanne worth $800,000 when to produce it, it cost only $1,000? So why is it $800? If I'm asking you, why is a Gauguin $800,000? You would tell me, oh, because it's a Cézanne. Yeah, but what is Cézanne? Yeah, but Cézanne is a genius. Yeah. So in fact, Cézanne is worth 800,000 because it's a myth. And so he said, my job as a dealer is to create myth. I do it every day from 9 to 7, and I do it pretty well, because that's the role. So you can create myth in many different ways. You know, you can be acquired by Collection Servais. Oh, Servais bought one. Oh, really? He bought one? So, okay, maybe I should buy one too. Or there are 2 pages of reviews in Art Forum. Oh, really? It's in Art Forum? Wow, super important. Oh, Ansuri Hobris will take it in his next exhibition. Wow. So there are tons of ways of creating that myth that will increase the value. Does it mean that it's culturally important? No, because it's in some way there is some hard parts and some soft part to that thing. And of course, there are people that are understanding how you manipulate the system the same way as any product is manipulated, whether it's the wine, you know, how do you sell wine at a higher price? How does Apple to sell those phones more expensive than the other? They're also creating a myth around those phones. So it's the same story. The problem is that talking about art as an investment destroyed art. Because people are coming, you remember what I told you about the cave, about being challenged? Is that eventually people are not thinking about, do I want to be challenged? They're coming because they think they're going to make money. And this overhyping of art as an investment is kind of creating a standardization. Why? Because it's like in life, you know, if everybody wants to dress in black, you want to make money, you make clothes in black. You know, we talked about, 2 days ago, I spoke to an artist here on the fair, and she said, yeah, I'm a painter. And but here they choose a work what is not painting. So I don't know why they choose a work that is not painting. Because painting sells better than a sculpture or a 3-dimensional work. And I said, yeah, but you know, very probably your work in 3 dimensions is better than the painting. And she said, yeah, you know, maybe you're right, because sometimes when I'm painting and selling painting, I feel that I'm cheating my buyers. Because I'm much more complex than this painting that I'm doing. But they want painting, so I'll give them painting. And that's the problem of art as investment in many ways, because you follow the market. And then you forget about the cave, and you forget that your role as an artist and my role as a collector is not to support the things that will go into fashion. I should be supporting the one that will go into art history, which is a very different story. It's not art history and the market are 2 different things. So let's speak about the markets, because when you're into the market, everything is always fine, rosy, and everything. But there is a big problem of the market, which was the answer of what I said earlier, that is all about investment. In the last 15 years, there's been no growth in the total revenues of the art markets, okay? Which is bad. Of course, the problem is everybody is accomplice in trying to cover the fact that everything good in art, the prices go up, we sell more, but it's not true. The figures are here. It's not true. And the reason why it's not true is that people, you know, are killing it because of the investment. The prices are too high. What is very interesting is that after 15 years, it's the same amount of art which is negotiated. Now, is art a good investment? It's always the same story. People, of course, I've got a story. I tell you a story. I bought a Alain Thomas. No one of you knows Alain Thomas. She's an American queer black woman. Perfect. I mean, queer, black, and she's doing very spectacular works in beads. So, long time ago, when nobody cared about black people, I bought that work in 2002 for $16,000. In 2015, because she was at the MoMA, blah, 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 and everything, and she was in every magazine, Vogue, and blah, the market for her was 600,000 euro. So I said, this is not worth 600,000 euro. This is the price of a house. So, and I'm not subscribing to what she has become because she always does the same now. Because it's normal. I mean, if someone is paying you 300,000 for doing the same thing over and over again, you do it, you go back to sleep afterwards, and it's okay. So I sold it. So I could say, wow, look at me. Art is an investment, you see? I bought it for 16,000 and I sold it for 600,000. That's what people tell you as a story. But if you look at the entire collection, I mean, there's 80% of the work that has no value. Because if I wanted to sell it back, you know, for example, I bought a work from Vartai many years ago, 10 years ago probably. She's not working with the artist anymore. The artist is not represented. So if I had to sell it, my only way to get rid of it would be to put it on the sidewalk. Only way. Worth? Zero. Of course, I'm not telling you that usually, because I prefer to speak about my Michel and Thomas. But this is what happened with 80% of the works of art. So saying that it's an investment, it's totally wrong. It's the biggest lie that there is around. So I know that tons of you think here that, you know, you should buy art for making money. No, buy anything else. I mean, buy shoes or buy, I don't know, anything else than this. So, and then if you go deeper, it's not only my experience, it's when you look at figures. You know, a few years ago, there was the Paul Allen collection, big collection, sold for almost $1 billion in total. So this guy was one of the founders of Microsoft. So the thing is, when you're digging into the figures, some of the works, he bought them at auction, and he sold them at back. So you could actually see what price he paid and what price he sold them to. And so if you look on the 11 works that were in the collection, and we're not talking about this work or this work, which is even more risky. We're talking about Van Gogh, Monet, Rauschenberg, you know, big names. And so the result of that is that the return was only 6.2%. And you know what? Even that 6.2% is a lie. You know why it's a lie? Because this is my job to tell you that I wrote to the people that published that thing. And the way they do it is when you buy at auction, you pay 100 plus 25% commission. So you pay 125. So the problem is when you sell it, let's say, for 200. The problem, and you get 200, but not the 240, which is the commission. So the problem is they're comparing price with commission to price sold with commission. So those figures are overestimated, okay? So it's only 6.2%. But you had also to keep them for 18 years. 18 years. So it's not about buying and selling tomorrow, okay? So you had 6.2% on 18 years on the best work in the collection. So this is rubbish. The same with above, you have Art Tactic, you know, this company that is one of the best doing research about art. And even in 2025, they're looking at those statistics. And you say, resale, 4.6% in first half of 2025. So you see, let's go back to my cave. Why I'm collecting contemporary art is not for investment. I decided that I would dedicate 10% of what I'm making every year to art, okay? And this, I'm not expecting any return on it. Okay, it happened that I do sometimes Michel and Thomas, which is fine, okay? And because I'm totally weird and fucked up, my eyes is very good. So I buy the stuff that nobody wants before everybody wants it. So the thing is, I'm making money out of my collection, but it's not an investment, okay? And when I will have to, either my children will take over or not take over, but I can guarantee that 80% of the works have no value. To tell you the truth is, of course, I'm insuring the collection. But on 80% of the works, I'm putting a value of 0. So I bought it, let's say 7,000 from Vartai. These works has 0 value, which means that if it burns, I get nothing in return, which I don't care because it's worth nothing anyway, but only the experience, because you know I was very happy to live with this work and it's a good work. But if it burns, I will not pay, in addition, an insurance for insuring something that is worth nothing. Okay? And that's also one of the reasons. You remember the graph I showed you about the last 15 years, there was no growth? Is that if you want to speculate, people understood that art is not the right place to speculate. Go to Bitcoins. I mean, if you want to make money fast and sell 5 times during the same day with no commission, go to Bitcoins. Don't go to art. So this is also a massive change which explains why the art market is stable as it is right now, is because there's no possibility to speculate about it. So also art is considered by many as a luxury goods. And that's what I call the rich man toys. You know, today when you've got 10 million, 20 million, 100 million, 1 billion, you know, you buy fancy cars, multiple houses, wine, watches, and the whole thing. And all of them, because the underlying problems for art and everything else is that there's people at the top that are making insane amount of money. So they just don't know what to buy anymore. So, and this is all the rich man toys, and you see that even at that level, art is not performing well. Because if you compare art minus 18, but even on 10 years, it's 54%. The important figure is that 54%, because Paco told me yesterday, he said, I've got one apartment, I don't want to do investments, because investment is too complicated, you know? The problem is, you buy a simple index, the most basic index possible. This is the return you had. This is the return you had on all the other assets. So if you want to invest, go to the stock exchange. Don't go to the fair thinking that you're going to be investing. So I go back to why I'm collecting contemporary art. I'm collecting contemporary art for the experience, for the way contemporary art will bring me outside of my comfort zone. Will teach me something, and every day art is teaching me something. For example, one of the work that I remember here on the fair is hidden away by a young student's artist. It's under the stairs. Probably you have all seen it. The floor is a mirror, and you see some lines. It's referring to the dating sites, the dating app. And there's a girl sitting on television that is asking you questions about things. This is, for me, the most interesting work that there is here on the fair, because it's talking about something current, which is the way we are meeting. You know, something that is fascinating is I'm 62 years old. Nightclubs don't exist anymore. People don't go dancing anymore. They dance in their living room or stuff, but I mean, I used to go Berghain and Pasha and the whole thing. I mean, all that shit is closed. So I say, where are people meeting? And so I'm speaking to friends and stuff and say, we met on internet, Tinder, or whatever. I say, what? How do you do that? I mean, it's completely crazy. So this work of art is talking about that, the fact how, you know, fake it is, how standardized it is. So that's the work I found the most interesting on the fair. And if I buy it, it would be nothing. So just to finish off, you know, someone that is considered the devil of the art market because he's only speaking about money, even him, he said those very clear sentences. Because, of course, people coming to him, he said, I want to make money in art, I want to make money in art. He said, all I can say is this, I'm not a stockbroker. Art is not a bond portfolio. It's not my job to make you money. If it were, I would be an investment advisor, a banker, or a private equity advisor. So he says, you know, why is it not an investment, and why should I not recommend it as an investment? Because there are three solutions. So even the price go down, like me with the work I bought at that time. Then people will come back to me and say, why did you sell me this shit? I mean, it's worth nothing anymore. So people will blame him. If nothing happens, they will come back and say, what's going on with this artist? Nothing happened with this artist. I mean, why did you recommend it to me? It's not doing nothing. And if it goes up, then no one will come to me to thank me. They will all say, look at me. My taste is really something, huh? You see? So the point of being the one that is giving advice for money in art is really, really a very bad idea. So I think it's mostly it. I don't know whether we're reaching the time. Questions, of course. Now, I'm hoping I provoked you to ask some questions. Sure. Any questions? Please.
Thank you. Yes, I want to ask in your slide about advice to young collectors. There was this sentence that to start small as mistakes are unavoidable. And the word mistake is very interesting. So I'd like to hear about your perspective on mistakes and collecting art.
Yeah. When you're exiting the chains and you try to exit the cave, you make mistakes, okay? So you are taking the wrong way. You are hitting your wall against the, you're hitting your head against the wall for whatever reason. It's the same in art. So, for example, the first thing is that you need to resist other people's opinion, okay? Because at the beginning, you're not sure of yourself. You know, you really, for the first time, you are walking. So you are like, so you need someone to tell you what direction. So very often you ask other people, what do you think of that? And if people say, oh, no good, so you don't do it. Or if they say to you, oh, that's very good, you should buy it, then you go for it, even if you are not sure by yourself. And then you learn that this is a mistake, because I bring it home, I don't like it. So, and then you say, why did I buy it? So the only saving that art brought me is they saved me psychoanalysis. Because you continuously have to ask yourself questions about yourself. Why did I buy this? Why didn't I buy this one? Okay? So for example, you say, why did I buy this one? Or for example, there's another element that is when you're a collector, you need to be very careful with that. Your mood. It's like doing shopping. I mean, you're very elegant, so you probably go shopping sometime for clothes or whatever. And depending on your mood, you're going to buy 3 or you're going to buy 0. So you need to be very careful, because if you go, sometimes you will not buy it because you're in a bad mood. You know, you had a fight with your boyfriend or whatever, and the other way around is that if everything is very fine, you're going to buy the wrong thing. So you need some time to calm down, say, no, let's not rush, because it's a mistake to rush, okay? So, and then you need to build confidence. Every one of us has got that case of you saying, I really like this work, but it's a little bit expensive for me and I'm not sure, okay? And then 5 years later is the superstar at MoMA. And you say, shit, why did I do it? Then suddenly you're building your trust. So it's an element. The problem is you're going to make those mistakes, whatever. And so it's better to start small, because I made small mistakes. And the problem is sometimes I see kids arriving at 35 years old with $1 million. And then they say, I want to buy art. I say, oh my God. I mean, that will always end up badly. Always, always, always. Because you cannot make it well the first time. So you need to take your time. And I made mistakes. I'm doing less mistakes, but I still do mistakes today. And it's very much about environment, the vibe. Sometimes it's even about the artists. You know, sometimes you like the artists. And that's the most difficult part, is there are artists I like, but I don't think the work is worth it. So, and the other way around, I don't like the artist, it's really a pain in the ass, but the work is a killer. So you need to overcome that and say, it's like doing business. I can do business with this guy even if I don't like him. Any other questions?
If I may add to the discussion, the first work I bought when I wasn't in the art world, I was working for a multinational. It was a post-minimal work, like a piece of wood. I've been bullied for 10 years by my colleagues at the multinational. So, and then what he said, what Alain said, is that I bought another work. It was a pop artwork, very flashy, easy. And I loved it at the beginning, and then I hated it, and then I changed it for a computer, for a laptop. So, I mean, you buy something, but then you, as a person, change. You also have other ideas, other tastes, and then you keep growing. And then some of the works, okay, you keep them because it's very difficult to sell them. Most of the galleries, it's a very difficult market. So if you go to a gallery and if it's not Mikkel and Thomas, it's very difficult to say to the gallery, hey, can you take it back? So, I mean, that's part of the process. Questions? Come on.
Any questions?
Thank you, very interesting. It's always a question, again, what's the value of an art piece?
Bring it closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have any threshold or like average amount for the piece of art when you started collecting the arts? Did you have any, threshold for the amount you want to spend for one piece of art?
People are right when they say that collecting is an addiction, but anything is an addiction. It means that, whether it's video games, whether it's a passion for football, whether it's traveling, everything is a passion. So when I started collecting, I looked at my budget of what I was making as money when I was at that time, and I said, okay, I think it would be reasonable if I was spending 25,000 euro a year. Okay? That was my budget. Except I never respected it. So it's always about, can I afford it? Can I afford it? Can I afford it? And now it's probably, it's not very far from what I'm spending on 1 week. So that's, there's no, and also, it's also the trust that I have. And also the, a journalist yesterday for the Art newspaper was asking me this strange question: what should art cost? What should art cost? And one of the key things is also the value of money for different people. Because 1,000 euro for me is not 1,000 euro for you, and neither is for you. So it's already, the value of money is already very different. Yesterday I was talking, I don't remember who I was talking to. We're talking about the Walton family that has the Walmart chain in the United States. So this woman fortune is about $24 billion, which is nothing against Elon Musk, who's got $500 billion. But those $24 billion, she bought a Monet for 20 million. And people said, oh, how is it possible that people are spending that much money for a work of art? But then I told her, if she's really stupid, she will make 5% return on her 24 billion a year, okay? And if it's divided by day, in fact, the 20 million was 5 days of interest for her. Not the capital, 5 days of interest. So, that's the problem with the price and the limits that you put yourself. But then the problem is when you get addicted, you need to be very careful. And I'm doing something very, very important. I pay in the week I'm buying something, in the week. Because that's a big problem of collectors, because I know some people, some collectors that are addicted. Sometimes I know a guy, he went to Art Basel, Miami, and then he came to me, he said, I bought 22 works. I said, 22 works on the week? And the problem that he came home, he looked at the total, he said, and he canceled 10. So it's also something that you don't know here in the thing, is that, but the dealers, there's a few gallerists here, 1, 2, it is well known that approximately 10% of the transaction are never paid for. So people say, I buy it, and then eventually they don't buy it, okay? So sometimes I speak, because I'm a businessman, I speak to galleries and say, why don't you sue them? Because, I don't know, if you go to buy a washing machine, you're signing a bond, and you say, I'm buying for this washing machine for 500 euro, okay? And if you don't pay it, someone will come knocking at your door and say, you have a paper, pay 500 euro, okay? And the gallerists don't do that. They never sue. So I said, why you never sue? Then I thought about it, because what I love about art is that you need to think all the time. And I said, yeah, I understand why. Because in fact, the gallerists are drug dealers. They're selling drugs to the collectors, okay? So the problem, they know that even if this time they didn't pay, if they sue them, they're gonna die. So they will not buy again. So, okay, I'll let them go away with this one. I'll be careful the next time. But I'm in the drug business. So I cannot afford to kill my clients because there's not that many clients. So it's also something very interesting about art and money.
Alain,
Yep.
I have a question
Yep.
from the audience.
From what?
From the audience.
Don't go in front of the camera.
Do you have a collecting strategy? I mean, are you butterfly or mole? I mean, are you horizontal, vertical? You collect a lot of artists, or you collect an amount of artists and you buy more works by those artists? So tell me a little bit about your strategy.
So everybody is different, you know. You remember I started my talk in saying, you know, you need to define what art is for you. And it's the same with collecting. There's multiple different collectors. For example, I sat here with the founder of the Rupert's residency program here, an amazing man. And he said, I'm not collecting. I said, but we're doing the same thing. We are supporting art, okay? We're allowing artists to keep going. And I take objects in return, and you don't take objects in return because you keep educating them, training them, and giving them. So there's multiple type of collectors, and Paco is right to underline this. In my case, I try to buy one work of the artist that I'm collecting. So I'm not buying 5 works or 10 works or 20 works. Some collectors they're buying in depth. So they buy 20 works of the same artist. I don't. I try, because for me, it's already a miracle to have one bright idea in your life. Okay, so you have superstar like Picasso or Matisse or some others that are able, or Philip Guston, that are able to reinvent themselves. But most of the time, an artist will always do the same thing. He was just polish, make it a bit abstract, not abstract, and the whole thing. So me, I believe more in researching until I find the right piece, that I find the right important. And sometimes it takes me years. You know, I remember I wanted to buy a Gilbert and George, and I saw hundreds of Gilbert and George until I found this is the one that I want in the thing. So to answer your other question, I'm pretty analytical. So it's also very interesting because I learned really the true difference. You remember men are from Mars and women are from Saturn or whatever. And it's very true because I think men most of the time are very analytical and cerebral. And I admire women because they're most instinctive and emotional. And two are bringing two different type of collections, but two of them are interesting as well. So there's no rules. There's many different ways to get to the same point. So I'm not buying in depth. I'm buying 80% in numbers of the works I'm buying are from emerging artists, 80%. 20% are established artists that I find that are undervalued, that really for that quality of work, they're very affordable. I'm also very interested in contemporary art. That's very interesting because you mentioned that the first work of art you was a minimal work of art. When was it? 20 years ago? So that's what's very interesting is in 1991 that minimal work of art had already 20 years at a minimum. I'm very interested in contemporary art. You know, it's my nature. And again, you remember my first sentence was, my neurosis met arts. So it's just about who I am that is meeting art. And I am, even at my age, very profoundly interested by contemporary culture. If you want to make me run away from a party, you put music from the 1990s. You see that kind of shit stuff? I mean, you know. But it works, because in this time, we are in a nostalgic time. People want to go back in time, in the past, and it's not the right way. So me, I'm still on, and I'm still curious until maybe I'll be too old, and then it's finished. Then I've finished the whole thing.
Okay, the last question from the audience. I'm here.
Oh, none. Thank you very much for your...
No,
please.
wait, one question, because I think this is important. Okay, you, and then I do the last question.
Okay.
Good. Get free drinks all night.
You are a professional collector, and you say that you're doing sometimes mistakes. Can you explain us what kind of mistakes and what does it mean?
Yeah, the mistakes is all of us are bombarded by advertising and marketing. You know, why are we buying this car in this color? Why are we buying these shoes in this color? The whole entire economic system and even political system. You know, because we voting because we find the guy cute, okay? Or we do this. So continuously, you remember, we're bombarded by those things. So the problem is sometimes I'm trying to push back. Don't fall for the fashion, don't fall for what everybody likes. But sometimes I'm weak, and sometimes I make the mistake. Sometimes, of course, it needs to be more sophisticated than just fashion, okay? But I'll give you an example. One of the things of the art world right now is that artists need to have a certain profile to be interesting. So I'll give you an example. Right now, there's a young woman artist. She's from Bosnia-Herzegovina, okay? Bosnia-Herzegovina, wow, that's a really poor country. Hard life there, you know, they had war and everything. Poor girl, okay? And then she's poor as well. So you say, I feel better if I help her, okay? In addition, she's very pretty. So you say, oh, but she's very pretty. So, and she's talking, the work that she's producing is linked to second-hand cars, because in Bosnia-Herzegovina they buy all the cars from Europe and then they take them apart and the whole thing. So say, oh, I'm buying something representing the economy there. Then you say, should I buy it? And many people do buy it, okay? But it's a mistake because it's a product. If you understand what I mean, she's a product. And it's the same thing with black people. Suddenly people, you know, when we had that poor guy killed on the sidewalk, then suddenly everybody wanted to buy black. So you needed to be black. And it makes me think about something that happened that is really true. 20 years ago, the market that was very hot was China. So China, everybody wanted to buy China, China getting open, blah, blah, blah. And for some people here, they said, yeah, but I'm not Chinese, so what do I do? So there was a guy that became pretty famous. He was a Chinese artist, but no one could ever make an interview of him. He was a mysterious Chinese artist, but he was selling and selling and selling, okay? Then the fashion of Chinese disappeared. It was 8 years later. And then he came out and he said, in fact, I'm not Chinese, I'm French. So eventually, the market was buying a product, okay? The same thing, I'm sorry to say, but one gallery said, because of that Me Too things and we need to rebalance and blah, 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 and everything, a gallerist, Carlos Ishikawa, said, no one is interested anymore what a white heterosexual male has got to say. We're not interested. So, and I know many, many artists, male artists, heterosexual, that are saying, what do I do? I mean, I produce good works, but nobody cares about me because I'm not in the product that is necessary right now. So one of the things is continuously we're bombarded by, for example, oh, you should buy at ArtVilnius because art fair is a place where you see good art. No, if you want to see good art, go to the galleries, okay? That's most important, or go to the museums or whatever. But this is a shopping mall. This is nothing else than a shopping mall. In the same way as you will not buy the best shoes in a shopping mall because you're going to find a nice boutique or online, it's the same here. So, Paco, last question.
I have two questions. One is, do you have NFT, something like NFT art you bought? And second question is, how many Lithuanian artists?
Sorry?
And second question is, how many Lithuanian artists do you have in your collection or bought? Thank you.
NFT, I didn't touch it, and I was one of the first one, and I'm very happy because I always insist that my talks are recorded. So in November 21, I say NFT sucks, don't touch, okay? Because it is the worst element of art. It's pure speculation. Nobody cared about, you remember, being disturbed and being thinking, there was no thinking. It was just a token. And this token, I can bet on it, so I can make money out of it. But where is the art? I always said, where is the art? So no NFT, not touching like this. Second is Lithuanian artists. Every place I'm going, people are asking me. And you know what? I don't care about the nationality. So there's no listing in my collection by nationality. Because also nationality does not mean anything. I give you another example that I learned. Is one year I said, okay, I'm going to do a rehanging of the collection and I'm going to show all the French artists. Okay. So what do I do with Laure Prouvost? Laure Prouvost is born in France, but she lives in the United States for 20 years. And when she speaks, you have the impression that you have Donald Trump speaking French. So is she French? Or what about Kader Attia? Kader Attia is Algerian, but he's living in France for 40 years. So is he French or not French? So one Lithuanian artist I know I have is from Vartai. What's the name? I don't know.
It's Vytautas Viržbickas that you have.
Good. Probably I've got others, but I don't know because I'm never thinking in terms of nationality.
One last question. I think it's very interesting. The first time I heard about Alain was because I was writing a book about art fairs and biennials, and I came across a very provocative statement. We can imagine he's a provocative speaker. So, and this provocative statement was, the best place to buy art are biennials. And I said to myself, what? We are supposed to understand art fairs, that's where we buy art. Biennials, that's something, you know, that's art history, something totally different. So can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
So this quote made me appear on the face of the art media. The title was Alain Servais, blah, 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 says that the Venice Biennial is the world's best art fair. It was the quote. And of course, it seems to be provocative, but the problem is, you remember, I repeat again and again, you remember the cave? It's about stop seeing things the way you are told to see them. If you want to go home tonight, that's all I'm just asking you when you go to bed, this asshole from Belgium, stop looking at things the way you are told to look at them. So, as Paco is saying, an art fair is supposed to be the place where you buy art. It's true, it is done for you, for buying, only for buying. But a biennial, there's no gallery supposedly around there, but all the works of art are for sale because an artist produced them, actually. And there's a gallery that financed it. And at one point, at the end of the biennial, where will the work go? So I noticed this just because I was using my eyes, like I'm recommending you to use your eyes, okay? Is that I said, why am I not buying from the biennial? Because at the fair, I remember at the peak of the art markets, I was ashamed of seeing some of my colleagues in Art Basel. They were actually running in the aisles. You know, they were running. You know, I want to be the first, I want to be the first. Like, you know, like those sales in the supermarket when you can buy those large screen television. Ridiculous. I never said hi to this guy anymore, okay? But why should I go there? When I'm at the biennial, nobody cares. Nobody's thinking about buying. But in fact, it's possible. So the same in museums. You know, we spoke earlier about the museum, but I really remember it was more than 25 years ago. I was at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Next time you go to a museum, do me a favor. Look at the wall text, okay? When you see at the wall text, courtesy, gallery, XYZ, and the artist, it means it's for sale. Simple and clear, okay? So I was at the Met, I was watching a surrealist exhibition, and there was a Hans Bellmer photograph. And it was written courtesy of a gallerist I knew. So I called him from the Met, and I told him, how much is it? $12,000. Said, I buy it. So it came from the Met to my place with the sticker of the Met behind. So anywhere where there is an exhibition where you can show this is for sale. And you know what? Now let's put yourself in the simple position again. Use your eyes and your brain. If you're an artist, where are you going to show the best works? At the Met or at Vilnius? At the Met, or at the Venice Biennial, or at the Kaunas Biennial. So you say, why should I not buy the best works? Why should I buy the works that are the one that you put? I always call a fair like a, you know, the last little thing when you are in the supermarket, you want to buy, and it's all the things that you say, you are waiting there, you know, you're pushing your thing, the people to pay. And then, oh yeah, maybe I buy this Mars or this Snickers or something like this. You know, it's just the instinct acquisition that is pushed to you here. But the good quality things, they are in the biennials. So, again, I don't have the impression of being intelligent or something, or saying something that is really strange. But when I said this quote, the world best art fair is the Venice Biennial, then everybody was, what? So that's why journalists like me, that I always give them good quotes. So.
Anyway, it's interesting because in the 30s, the MoMA started to tour a lot of exhibitions. They actually started the circulation departments, and practically all the exhibitions had the price list. So you could buy the works from fantastic art, data, whatever. So that was very common. Now we think museums, biennials are not the market, not sales platforms and things like that. Okay.
So
anyway.
Yeah, just to finish on that, it's right. Paco is right. Until 1956, the Venice Biennial, there was an office for acquisition.
Yeah.
So you could actually buy everything that was at the Venice Biennial. You just went into the Giardinis, and there was an office where you could actually buy the works. Then it was stopped because there were some excesses. But now, and that's the problem of the art world, as I said in my speech earlier, is that everything is fake. So in fact now, all the galleries here knows it. If you have an artist at the biennials, you actually take a stool like this, and you're sitting by your artist the whole day until the buyers come. So this is the way biennials work now. So if you go the opening week, all the galleries are there selling. So.
But this is also the reason why Art Basel started Art Unlimited, you know, this big sculptural, proctoral section, because the director said, at Basel, they said, I don't have competition from our art fairs. I have competition from the Venice Biennial. Anyway,
Thank you very much for your courage.
Thank
for
you.
being it.
Big applause for Alain. Thank you for listening. Bravo.